Hey everybody, welcome back. So today's just going to be a bit of a quick video. I'm in the process of moving right now and today is my last day in the house, so I figured I'd give you a 3-year update on the shed. Now I know 3 years is not the longest time for a long-term update video, but it's all I got. And considering the amount of people that said this thing wouldn't last more than 2 years, it would just be a rotten heap on the ground, this one's for you. Now the first thing I want to talk about is the roof. The roof I haven't had a single problem with. There's a bunch of people that said that after a year or two of just having 2x4s for rafters that it would be sagging and everything, but remember, we put everything crown up and there's no weight on it. It's not like everybody's up there. If you got to go up there and do any maintenance or repairs, it's going to be more than enough to sustain anybody's body weight, so I haven't had a single issue with that. And that still holds true when you look inside. Everything here literally looks like just it was when the day I built it. Now let's talk about the finish. How is that held up? Because again, a bunch of people were saying, unsure about paint. Again, paint, as long as it's outdoor rated and it's layered, multiple layers, it's gonna hold up pretty well. And I live in a super harsh climate, blizzards, +40, -40, hail, windstorms. I've had to make insurance claims in the house, but this guy lasted just fine. Partially because it's under trees, I'll give it that, but it's lasted just fine. The paint itself though, has held up just fine. It's starting to look a little thin in a few places, so I mean, it could definitely use a new coat of gray. And I would probably just roll on a new coat of white while I'm at it. But I think the only thing that I regret not doing at the time was maybe just priming all of my knots, because the knots are just ever so slightly starting to turn yellow in places. I mean, it's very slight, but it is there. But that's really the only issue I have with the finish. Otherwise, the finish is holding up a-okay. When it comes to the door, not a single issue with that. As you can see, that's just the weight of the door and the hinges, don't worry about that. But the door itself operates extremely smoothly still. I've never adjusted it and there's no problem, no binding, no nothing. So having enough hinges on that side, heavy duty hinges, the 4-foot door is perfectly fine. And obviously no sag. A bunch of people were wondering about this brace. Again, this brace technically should be running this way if I was to prevent sag. I'm not preventing sag. There's no sag in this door. The sheet is what keeps it from sagging. This brace was literally nothing more than just for anything for this sheet to screw onto. That's it. Don't overthink that. Now, with our walls, I'm going to kind of move inside real quick here. The walls themselves are they are what they are. They're walls. They stand up and they hold things. But the biggest thing is they're all still perfectly straight. Obviously the door still works. And there's no leaks anywhere. They literally look like the day I built them. None of the OSB is stained, nothing. And obviously our no leaks equation starts with the roof, but the other part of that is, that's the reason we brought our wall sheeting down to overlap our floor joists and our floor framing itself. That way our floor and our wall plates don't just sort of meet up with the OSB that's making up our floor sheeting and create a place where water can seep in. We overlap the two, that way water will just run right off the entire thing. And now the floor itself. This has probably been the biggest single piece of contention on the entire shed. And as you can see, it's solid. There's no issue. The reason being is we constructed it correctly. Now I've said this time and time and time again, and I still get tons of comments on it. Most people are having an issue with OSB floors that they've probably used in the past because it's been constructed incorrectly. Now we built this on top of our 4x4 beams. That creates an air gap. In other words, as you can see, it never gets wet, it stays dry, it's gonna last for decades. Now, as you can see, I finished up the landscaping around the shed and I brought in some rock. But I left a seam here. Now this rock is allowed to breathe and I still get air underneath the shed. My front beam is right there, my middle beam is right here, my back beam back there is keeping the shed floor up off the ground. Because I still have airflow underneath the whole shed, like I said, everything stays perfectly dry and the floor is going to last a long time. Had these beams not been there and we just set it on the ground, it wouldn't last very long. Then I would give in to the people that say, yeah, a year or 2 years, that floor would be rotten, but not this way. That being said, if you do want to build this shed or even just the floor, I've got plans for both. The floor plans are slightly modified. That way they work for anybody that doesn't want to build the shed, but they need a floor structure for a plastic shed or a pre-built or something like that. You can see me right here, it works perfectly. And as you can see, I did pour another row of these concrete stones. Go ahead and check that video out. I'll have it linked up above here as well. But that's it for this one, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the shed series. Tons of people have built the shed, bought the plans, and I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you so much for the support. It really means everything to me. But it's a little bittersweet. Out of the house, that's the shed. That's where it stands today, 3 years on. So again, thank you so much for the support, you guys. I will see you again in the next one at the new place, and maybe we'll slam up another shed of a slightly different design and we'll go from there. So have a good one, guys.